Are you tired of feeling like life is just happening to you? I mean, really reacting all the time.
Yeah, it's a common feeling.
What if you could actually, take the reins? Think smarter, not just harder, and genuinely shape your outcomes.
Well, that's pretty much the core promise of strategic thinking, isn't it?
Exactly. Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're digging into a really interesting audiobook all about strategic thinking. We want to pull out the absolute key insights for you, focusing on, well, three main things. What is it, really? Why should you care? And crucially, how can you actually get better at it?
And this isn't just like abstract theory. The approach we're looking at draws on psychology, a bit of neuroscience, real-world stuff.
Right, practical things. The goal is to make you feel genuinely well-informed on this quickly without getting totally bogged down.
So think about this distinction the book makes early on. Are you playing checkers, just reacting move by move? Or are you playing chess, seeing the whole board, thinking several steps ahead? That's the difference strategic thinking makes.
And the great news, which the book really emphasizes, is that it's a skill, something anyone can learn, not some secret gift.
Absolutely. And that shift from reactive to proactive, that's where it all starts. So many of us get caught in that loop, just responding.
Totally.
Strategic thinking, fundamentally, is about breaking that cycle. It's that ability to look ahead, analyze situations from multiple angles.
Not just your own immediate view.
Right. And then make choices that are grounded in both, the present reality and where you want to end up in the future, guiding your path, not just drifting.
Okay, so it's about conscious direction. But the book makes a really interesting point. It says this isn't some exclusive club for CEOs or generals. It's for everyone.
Definitely. It democratizes the idea.
But, and this is a big but, it also points out that our modern world, with its constant distractions and demand for instant results, kind of works against developing this skill.
It really does. That pull towards instant gratification, the nonstop notifications, it actively discourages the patience and reflection needed.
So resisting that constant now is like step one.
It has to be. The audiobook frames it as fundamental. You need that space to think strategically.
Okay, so to really get what it is, the book draws this great line between tactics and strategy. Can you unpack that a bit?
Yeah, it's a useful analogy. Think of tactics as the individual bricks. Sending that email, having that specific meeting, doing a daily task. They're actions.
Got it, bricks.
But strategy, that's the blueprint. It shows how all those bricks, all those tactics, fit together to actually build the house or achieve the larger goal without the blueprint.
You just have a pile of perfectly laid bricks going nowhere.
Exactly. Well-executed tactics without an overarching strategy are often just wasted effort.
Okay, that makes sense. So what does a strategic thinker look like? What are their traits? The book details a few, right?
It does. One of the first ones is thinking in probabilities, not absolutes. This is really key.
Probabilities, meaning?
Meaning, instead of seeing things as just black or white, success or failure, 100% certain, you understand there's a whole range of potential outcomes.
Ah, okay.
You're asking, what are the chances of this working? And maybe more importantly, how can we increase those chances? Strategic thinkers play the odds. They don't bank on impossible certainties.
Right, because nothing's ever truly 100%. So it's about weighing risks, considering different scenarios, being ready for things to go sideways, maybe.
Precisely. And closely related is playing the long game. Oh man, this one really resonates.
Tell me about it. The temptation for the quick win is always there.
Always. But strategic thinkers consciously resist those short-term gains. If they might mess up the bigger picture, the long-term goal, they're constantly thinking about those ripple effects, those second and third order consequences.
Don't sacrifice the future for today's sugar rush. Got it.
And that ties into mastering anticipation. Strategic thinkers aren't just waiting for change to happen to them.
They're looking for it.
Actively. They're analyzing trends, spotting patterns, understanding the broader context to position themselves for what's likely coming next, preparing for shifts instead of being caught off guard, seeing around the corner, so to speak.
That sounds powerful. The book also mentions something about history, like learn from it, but don't be stuck in it.
Yes, exactly. Being a student of history, but not its prisoner. Learn the lessons, understand the patterns for sure. But strategic thinking isn't just copy-pasting old solutions.
Because context changes.
Always. It's about applying those historical insights to today's realities and tomorrow's uncertainties. And that leads to another big one. Comfort with uncertainty.
Which is hard. We naturally crave certainty, don't we?
We absolutely do. But the audiobook argues that certainty is often just an illusion anyway. Strategic thinkers get this, so instead of being frozen by the unknown, they kind of embrace it by building contingency plans, preparing for multiple scenarios, and recognizing that adaptability itself is a massive advantage when things are unpredictable. Uncertainty isn't a roadblock, it's just the terrain you have to navigate.
Okay, I like that framing. Now, the book also busts some myths, which is helpful, like the idea that you have to be some kind of genius to think strategically.
Yeah, that's a big one it tackles.
Hmm.
And the answer is a firm no. It's much more about discipline, careful analysis, planning, adapting. It's a skill set, not just raw intelligence.
So it's about how you use your brain, not just how much horsepower it has.
Precisely. You see, incredibly smart people fail strategically because they lack that discipline or the willingness to look beyond their own assumptions. It's about the application.
What about the myth that it just takes too much time? We're all so busy.
Right, and the book flips that. It argues strategic thinking actually saves time in the long run. By preventing wasted effort, costly mistakes, going down dead ends. Think about all the time spent fixing problems that a bit of upfront strategic thought could have avoided entirely. Investing time and strategy upfront saves way more time later.
That makes intuitive sense. Acting without thinking feels fast, but often leads you in circles.
Exactly. And then there's the misconception that being strategic means you have to be rigid, inflexible, stuck to the plan no matter what.
Ah, yeah, like a military general who won't change course.
But the book clarifies that the best strategies are actually flexible frameworks. They're not concrete blocks.
Okay.
Strategic thinkers expect things to change. New information comes in, circumstances shift. So they stay focused on the ultimate goal, the vision, but they're totally willing to adapt their approach, their tactics, as needed. Strong strategies are adaptable, not brittle.
Okay, so we have a clearer picture of what it is and isn't. How does the book suggest we start actually developing this skill?
Well, a huge piece is cultivating the habit of questioning assumptions, meaning not just taking things at face value, constantly asking why. Is that really true? What if we looked at this differently? Actively seeking out different viewpoints, even ones you disagree with.
And it also mentions this ability to zoom in and zoom out.
Yes, that's crucial. Being able to focus on the nitty-gritty details when you need to, but then pulling back to see the whole forest, the big picture. That shift in perspective helps you make decisions that work for both the short-term and the long-term goals.
And this applies everywhere, right? Work, life, finances.
Absolutely. It's a universal skill set.
Which kind of leads us nicely into the core principles that the book outlines in the next section. These are the foundational ideas that shape how strategic thinkers approach things.
Okay, let's dive into those principles. What's first?
A really fundamental one is balancing that long-term vision with managing short-term realities. Sounds simple, but it's about consistently making decisions based on where you want to be in the future, not just reacting to whatever fire is burning hottest right now. So constantly asking yourself how today's choices affect tomorrow's position.
Exactly. The book really pushes you to consider the long-term impact. Think about your career moves, your relationships, even your investments. Are your current actions actually building towards that future you want? Or are they just, quick fixes?
That's a searching question. Okay, what's another core principle?
Adaptability. We touched on it with busting the rigidity myth, but it's a core principle in itself.
Right. Strategies need to flex.
Precisely. The most effective strategies are dynamic frameworks, not static plans set in stone. They have to evolve as circumstances change. Think about a company that refused to adapt when the internet took off. Rigidity can be fatal.
So the key is being committed to the destination, but flexible on the route.
That's a great way to put it. Unwavering in the vision, but flexible in the approach. It's a bit of a paradox, but a powerful one.
Okay, that makes sense. What else?
Understanding first and second order consequences. This is huge.
Thinking beyond the immediate result.
Way beyond. It's about anticipating the ripple effects. So, okay, you make a decision. That's the first order consequence. Easy to see. But what happens because of that? And then what happens because of that?
But like the example of a company cutting costs.
Perfect example. First order. Lower expenses, looks good on the balance sheet maybe. Second order, employee morale plummets. Innovation dries up. Best people leave. Third order, competitors overtake them. Market share collapses.
Wow. Okay, so strategic thinkers are always asking, and then what?
Constantly. And then what? And then what? It's multi-layered thinking, which connects to the next principle, risk management.
Which isn't about avoiding risk entirely, right?
Not at all. And it's definitely not about reckless gambling either. It's about calculated risk-taking.
How you calculate it.
By consciously evaluating the potential rewards against the potential downsides. Assessing the probabilities, there's that word again, of different outcomes. Is the potential upside worth the potential loss if things go wrong? Entrepreneurs do this constantly. It's informed uncertainty, not just hoping for the best.
Okay, calculated risks. I like that. What else is key?
Controlling the controllables and preparing for the uncontrollables. This feels really practical.
Yeah, break that down.
Focus your energy, your effort, your resources on the things you can actually influence: your skills, your decisions, your actions. But at the same time, build resilience and contingency plans for the external stuff you can't control: market shifts, competitor actions, unexpected events.
Like personal finance, you control your spending, but not the economy.
Exactly. You prepare for potential downturns even while managing what's in your hands. Then there's the ability to anticipate and even shape future trends.
Going beyond just reacting to trends.
Yeah, it's more proactive, constantly scanning the horizon, looking for weak signals, identifying patterns early, and then preparing your response before the trend hits the mainstream. Think about businesses that saw the shift to mobile coming and were ready.
They were ahead of the curve, not playing catch-up.
Right. And the final principle the book highlights here is ruthless prioritization.
Ruthless. Sounds intense.
Well, maybe disciplined prioritization. In a world screaming for your attention, it's easy to get spread too thin. This is about applying something like the 80-20 rule.
The Pareto principle.
Yeah, recognizing that probably 20% of your efforts are generating 80% of your results. So focus intensely on that vital 20%, and maybe just as importantly, learn to say no to the other 80% that's just noise or distraction.
Saying no is hard, but crucial for focus.
Absolutely critical.
Yeah.
So wrapping up these principles, strategic thinking isn't just one thing, it's an approach. It's thinking in layers, planning for possibilities, balancing ambition with caution, always learning, always refining. It's dynamic.
That's a great summary, and it leads perfectly into the next major section of the book, which is all about critical thinking. It positions this as like the engine driving strategic mastery.
Exactly. If strategy is the blueprint, critical thinking is the quality control, ensuring the blueprint is sound and the measurements are accurate. It's about clear, logical, independent thought, your defense against bias and sloppy reasoning.
Okay, so how does critical thinking work in practice according to the book?
A huge part is the discipline of questioning assumptions. We touched on this earlier, but it's central to critical thinking. Don't just accept things because they're stated or because everyone knows them.
Dig deeper.
Always dissect arguments, challenge the premise, actively look for alternative explanations, constantly ask why, and is that really true?
And a big danger here is confirmation bias, isn't it? Our tendency to look for stuff that proves us right.
Oh, it's massive. We all do it naturally. Critical thinking requires deliberately fighting that tendency. The book stresses seeking out disconfirming evidence, actively trying to prove yourself wrong, playing devil's advocate with your own ideas.
That takes conscious effort. What else?
Differentiating between correlation and causation. This is a classic logical trap.
Just because two things happen together doesn't mean one caused the other.
Precisely. The ice cream sales and crime rates example is perfect. Both go up in summer, but one doesn't cause the other. There's a third factor: warm weather. Critical thinkers look for the real causal links, using data and logic, not just surface associations.
Right. Avoid jumping to conclusions, which probably relates to the danger of overgeneralization.
Exactly. Taking one or two data points and making a sweeping conclusion. I tried that restaurant once and it was bad, so it's a terrible restaurant. Critical thinking demands recognizing the limits of your evidence and the importance of context. Avoid those broad brush statements.
Makes sense. The book also talks about cognitive biases, right? Those mental shortcuts that lead us astray.
Yes, becoming familiar with common cognitive biases is really important. It mentions things like the availability heuristic.
That's where we overestimate things we hear about a lot.
Yeah, like assuming plane crashes are more common than car crashes because they get more news coverage, and the sunk cost fallacy.
Ugh, throwing good money after bad because you've already invested so much.
Exactly. Or the bandwagon effect, doing something just because everyone else is. Knowing these biases exist is the first step to spotting them in your own thinking and compensating.
It's like knowing the weak spots in your mental armor.
That's a good way to put it. The book also stresses clarity of language and thought, using precise terms, avoiding vague waffle.
Because fuzzy language often hides fuzzy thinking.
Often, yes. Critical thinkers strive for precision.
Mm.
And then it introduces a really powerful toolkit: mental models.
Frameworks for thinking. This part was fascinating.
Yeah, mental models are like different lenses you can use to look at a problem, simplifying complexity. The book mentions several key ones, like first principles thinking.
The Elon Musk approach. breaking things down to absolute fundamentals.
Exactly. What are the foundational truths here, ignoring assumptions? Then there's the Pareto principle again, the 80-20 rule for focusing effort.
We talked about that with prioritization.
Right. And inversion thinking, instead of asking how to succeed, ask what could make us fail, and then avoid those things.
Speaking backwards. Clever.
And Occam's razor, the simplest explanation that fits the facts, is usually the best one. Don't overcomplicate things unnecessarily. Plus, second-order thinking, which we covered, thinking about the consequences of the consequences.
So these models aren't magic bullets, but they give you structured ways to attack problems.
Precisely. They give you different angles, different frameworks to ensure you're not just stuck in one way of looking at things.
Okay.
And the final piece of critical thinking the book highlights is intellectual humility.
Being willing to say, I don't know, or I was wrong.
Yes, it's about prioritizing finding the truth over being right. Being open to changing your mind when the evidence changes. It's not weakness, it's actually a sign of strong critical thinking, letting go of ego.
So if you sharpen these critical thinking skills, questioning, avoiding bias, using logic, applying mental models, staying humble, you're essentially building the engine needed for powerful strategic thinking.
That's exactly the connection the book makes. Critical thinking provides the analytical rigor that makes strategy effective.
Wow. Okay, so that brings us towards the end of this initial exploration based on the audiobook. We've really unpacked what strategic thinking is, that proactive, future-focused mindset.
Yeah, and we've dug into why it's so vital today, navigating complexity and avoiding just being reactive.
And we've started to uncover how the characteristics, the core principles, and now this foundational role of critical thinking. It feels like these first sections really give you a solid framework.
They absolutely do. It's about shifting your perspective, empowering you to move from just, dealing with life as it comes to actively shaping where you're going.
Right. So as you, the listener, think about everything we've just discussed. Maybe consider this. Where in your life, could be work, could be personal, where could you start shifting from that reactive mode?
Yeah, where could you apply a more strategic, forward-thinking approach? What's one area?
That really is the question, isn't it? Taking these ideas off the page or out of the earbuds and putting them into practice in your own world. What's one game in your life where you could consciously decide to start playing chess instead of checkers?
It's a powerful question to sit with. Identifying that one area where shifting your approach could make the biggest difference for you. That's where the real value kicks in.
Well said. A great place to pause for now. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into strategic thinking. We hope these insights give you a strong starting point.
Hope it sparks some ideas. Until next time.